Everybody, how are you doing today? Welcome. It's very nice to have you here, and today I wanted to speak a little more about our upcoming 3-week intensive. Surrender is what we really want. Trust, capacity of the nervous system, and inquiry. So I have been speaking about surrender more lately, and when I speak about surrender, I'm speaking about two things. One is recognizing and following the movement that arises within. That really is a key component of surrender, the capacity to listen more deeply to what arises on the inner, rather than just following the mind, which is our habit. And that following of that movement not only brings us into deeper surrender, but also grows in trust, helps us to grow in trust, which, as we know, a moment of full trust is what results in awakening. So the other part of surrender is when the mind merges in the heart. And when I say the heart, I mean presence, our true nature. And it's really difficult to speak about this because the moment I even speak the words, the mind merging in the heart, that stillness is so overwhelming. And that really is the measure of surrender, so to speak. The ability of the mind to merge in the heart. And we experience that every night you experience that when you go to sleep, when you have to let go of everything and the mind goes from the waking state through the dream state into the deep sleep. And that's the moment of merging in the truth of our true nature, or in our true nature. Sometimes we confuse surrender with external signs. What does it look like? What does a surrendered person look like, right? It's confusing. It's a confusion, because really in reality, the measure of surrender is the mind merging in the heart. And there's also something that we rarely speak about, or too little speak about, which is the love of truth and love of the teaching. That is really almost synonymous with surrender. Because love of something that is bigger than who we think we are, something that is bigger than the arising experience that is present. And that love of truth, love of the teaching, and sometimes the devotion towards teacher, teaching, presence, that's very, very powerful when it naturally arises here. It may, sometimes appear like the devotion is to an external object, right? The teacher or the teaching or presence itself. However, really the devotion is to our true nature. That's what the devotion is to. That's what that love of truth, love of presence, love of our true nature is. Really, it's really the devotion to our true nature. And it's very powerful. It's very powerful to experience. It's very powerful to notice. It's very powerful to allow yourself to dive into. There are also many conditionings around love. What's okay, what's not okay, right? Is it okay to experience love, or how much love, or that much love, right? And so it's very powerful when you can allow that to be present, because that naturally takes us into a deeper surrender. And that naturally takes us deeper into being able to be here, into the mind merging in the heart. And of course, there's always this other element that I call the capacity of our nervous system to be here. That element that allows us to experience what arises, because that's what capacity is, ability to experience what is here. And you know, it's very powerful when we realize the importance of that, because so often people struggle with between the desire for truth and that overwhelming love or movement towards presence. And then between the times when past arises and when it affects your physiology and when you experience thought, feeling, sensation, emotion, and when that takes your attention away from being here. And if we don't understand that, we have like a conscious, part of our experience where we know like, yeah, I can be here, I'm, here, I'm present. And then when these deeper tendencies, which are most of the time unconscious, when they arise, they really take our attention from being here. And so we want to also understand and know more about this part, because knowing that really, it also takes it out of that place where you feel there's something wrong, like you can't do it, or you're not doing it right, or you should know something, or why is this not working, right? It takes it out of that place when you have the skill, when you understand what is it like to be here. So we are going to practice this together. We are going to speak about this more. We are going to experience it together, and also of course, speak more about inquiry itself, how to do inquiry. And so I'm very much looking forward to our time together. And also, if you like these videos, if you appreciate these videos, I would like to ask you to please to subscribe, to like us, to share. We really appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in our programs.